The night Beijing swallowed itself in a blanket of winter fog. The world glittered with neon reflections on wet pavement. But to Wang Yibo, everything felt painfully silent. He had just wrapped up a long rehearsal, sweat still clinging to his skin, exhaustion weighing on his shoulders. But something gnawed at him, a quiet voice inside whispering that something was wrong. Something about Xiao Zhan's recent messages, the strange pauses, the sudden distance. It wasn't like Xiao Zhan to be vague or distant. Their bond had always been steady, a quiet but undeniable current running between them. Something unsaid but deeply known. Yibo had never needed explanations. He always understood him. Until now. He stepped outside the rehearsal hall, breath frosting the air, and stared at his phone again, reading Xiao Zhan's last message for the 20th time. I'll explain everything soon. Just give me a little time. Time? Why did that sound like the kind of message someone sent before disappearing? A cold ripple crept through Yibo. He didn't want to think it. He didn't want to believe it. But he knew something was wrong. So he did what he always did when worry consumed him. He went to find Xiao Zhan. The drive to Xiao Zhan's apartment was a blur of harsh traffic lights and impatient horns. Yibo kept replaying moments between them. Laughter shared backstage, soft confessions whispered in green rooms, stolen glances during interviews when they hoped no one was watching. He remembered the way Xiao Zhan smiled when he thought Yibo wasn't looking. He remembered the warmth of his voice. He remembered everything. When he finally arrived at Xiao Zhan's building, his heart began to thump harder. The security guard recognized him instantly and waved him through without questions. That alone was strange. Xiao Zhan was private, protective, very selective about who knew anything regarding his personal life. Yibo stepped into the elevator, hands trembling slightly. He hated that they trembled. Why am I scared? Why do I feel like something is about to break? The elevator dinged softly at the 18th floor. He walked down the hallway with a pounding heart, then stopped abruptly. Xiao Zhan's door was slightly open. That wasn't normal. That wasn't safe. That wasn't him. Xiao Zhan. Yibo called softly as he stepped inside. No answer. The apartment was dim, curtains drawn, only the faint glow of a lamp illuminating the living room. It felt colder than usual, as if someone had opened all the windows and let the winter settle inside. Xiao Zhan, he repeated, louder this time. Then he heard it. A quiet, broken cough coming from a bedroom. Not just any cough. A weak, painful one. Yibo's breath caught. He walked toward the bedroom door, every step heavier than the last. Something inside him whispered, "You're not ready for what you're about to see." He pushed the door open, and the world stopped. Xiao Zhan was sitting on the edge of the bed, body slumped, hair messy, skin pale. Too pale. His shoulders were trembling, and he held a handful of tissues stained with blood. Blood. Yibo's eyes widened. His breath shattered. "Xiao Zhan," he whispered, voice cracking. Xiao Zhan looked up suddenly, startled, eyes red and glassy. He quickly hid the tissues behind him, but it was too late. Yibo had already seen everything. A tremor ran across Xiao Zhan's face. Fear, shame, pain, all tangled together. "Yibo, you shouldn't be here." Those words stabbed harder than any blade. Yibo stepped closer, chest burning. "Why didn't you tell me?" Xiao Zhan looked away. "Because you'd react like this. You're coughing up blood, Zhan. How am I supposed to react?" Xiao Zhan closed his eyes, exhaling shakily. "I was going to tell you when filming ends, when I knew you wouldn't abandon everything to worry about me." Yibo took another step forward, hands trembling violently. "What is happening to you?" Xiao Zhan didn't answer. Yibo felt something break. "Tell me," he pleaded, voice low and shaking. "Please." A long silence followed, heart-crushing, suffocating. Finally, Xiao Zhan lifted his eyes, and what Yibo saw in them made his knees weaken. Fear, resignation, and something else, something much worse. Acceptance. "I've been diagnosed," Xiao Zhan whispered. "It's serious, Yibo, very serious. And I only have a few months before everything starts getting worse." The words hit Yibo like a collapsing building. His throat closed, his chest tightened, his vision blurred. "No," he whispered, shaking his head violently. "No, no, no. It's the truth. You should have told me. I didn't want you to worry. I'm always going to worry." Yibo shouted, voice breaking. Because it's you. Because you matter to me more than anything. More than work. More than the whole damn world. Xiao Zhan's lips trembled. He tried to smile, but the smile collapsed instantly. I didn't want to become a burden, he whispered. The moment he said the word burden, Yibo's chest felt like it was being crushed by 1,000 invisible hands. A burden? Yibo repeated, voice hollow. You think you could ever be a burden to me? Xiao Zhan didn't answer. And that silence, that terrified, broken silence, was the sound that finally made Yibo cry. He didn't cry loudly. He didn't fall apart dramatically. It was worse. A quiet tear slid down his cheek. Then another. Then another. Slow, heartbreaking tears that belonged to someone who was trying with every last piece of strength not to shatter. But he was already shattered. Xiao Zhan panicked when he saw it. He moved forward instantly, reaching for him, voice trembling. Yibo, don't cry. Please. I'm the one who... No, Yibo whispered, stepping back, covering his mouth as more tears fell uncontrollably. Why would you keep this from me? Why would you face this alone? I didn't want to drag you into my pain. Yibo wiped his eyes harshly, but the tears kept coming, unstoppable now. You don't drag me into your pain, he whispered hoarsely. You share it with me. That's what people do when they care about each other. Xiao Zhan's eyes shone with unshed tears. Yibo continued, voice shaking. You can't decide something like this for me. You can't remove yourself from my life because you think you're protecting me. That's not protection. That's punishment. Xiao Zhan let out a broken breath. I don't want you to watch me fade. I'd rather watch you fade, Yibo whispered, than watch you walk away. That sentence crushed Xiao Zhan. He covered his face with his hands, shoulders trembling, finally letting the truth break free. I'm scared, Yibo, he cried softly. I'm so scared. Yibo moved instantly. He didn't hesitate. He didn't think. He didn't care about consequences. He wrapped his arms around Xiao Zhan and held him tightly, tighter than he had ever held anything in his life. He buried his face in Xiao Zhan's shoulder and cried silently, his tears soaking into the fabric of his shirt. For a long moment, they stayed like that, two hearts breaking but beating together, two souls trembling but holding each other like their lives depended on it. Because they did. When their tears finally slowed, Xiao Zhan pulled back slightly, wiping Yibo's cheeks gently. There's more, he whispered. Yibo froze. More? Xiao Zhan nodded. The doctor said I need a long-term treatment in another country. It's intense. It could take months, maybe a year. And during that time, I have to disappear from everything. No work, no social media, no public life. The apartment was silent except for the soft hum of the heater and the shallow breaths escaping Xiao Zhan's lips. But inside Wang Yibo's chest, everything was loud, too loud. His pulse hammered like a drum, fear shaking his ribs, panic squeezing his lungs. The weight of Xiao Zhan's secret pressed down on him with a force no human heart was built to carry. He watched Xiao Zhan sleeping, his breathing uneven, his eyebrows furrowed even in rest. The illness had already taken its toll. The once bright glow of his skin was now dim and washed out. And for the first time, Yibo noticed how fragile he looked. Too fragile. Yibo swallowed, his throat burning as he brushed a thumb lightly along Xiao Zhan's cheek. It was cold. Too cold. Why didn't he notice earlier? How long had Xiao Zhan been hiding this? How long had he been suffering alone? Yibo's fingers trembled as he gently tightened his grip around Xiao Zhan's hand, thin and limp against his palm. He leaned closer, whispering words Xiao Zhan couldn't hear. You should have told me, he whispered. You should have trusted me with your pain, not just your smiles. A sharp ache cut through him. He couldn't even blame Xiao Zhan, not truly. Xiao Zhan had always been the type to endure quietly, to protect others even at the cost of breaking himself. But the idea that he had planned to disappear without saying goodbye, that thought tore Yibo apart more than the illness itself. He looked toward the small desk in the corner of the room. Papers were stacked neatly. Too neatly. Something fell off. Yibo stood, walking toward the desk with slow, cautious steps. What he saw made his heart drop. A passport. Hospital files. International treatment documents. A plane ticket, one way, departure in 4 days. A folder titled Final Arrangements. Yibo's breath caught sharply. He picked up the file with shaking hands. Inside were letters. Letters addressed to everyone in Xiao Zhan's life. Some sealed, some open. Each one dated for the day Xiao Zhan was planning to leave the country. But one envelope stood out. White, unsealed. His name written in shaky handwriting. Yibo. Yibo froze. Slowly, painfully, he opened the letter. Inside were just 3 sentences. Thank you for giving me beautiful memories. I don't want you to see me like this. Please don't look for me. The paper fell from Yibo's hand as if it burned him. His knees buckled, hitting the floor with a dull thud that echoed through the room. His palms pressed against his eyes, trying to halt the tears that came pouring out like a dam breaking all at once. How could you? His voice cracked. How could you write something like this to me? He choked on the weight of the question. Yibo wasn't crying just because Xiao Zhan was sick. He wasn't crying because Xiao Zhan was leaving. He was crying because Xiao Zhan had chosen to suffer alone, to vanish alone, to face darkness alone, as if Yibo didn't exist in the world he was trying to escape. No, Yibo whispered, shaking his head violently. I won't let you go. Not like this. Not in silence. He returned to the bedside, sitting gently beside Xiao Zhan. Even asleep, Xiao Zhan's breathing hitched as if he sensed the heaviness around him. Yibo wiped his own tears with the back of his sleeve and leaned forward. Even when you try to push me away, he murmured softly, I'm staying. Even if you tell me to forget you, I won't. Even if you try to disappear, I'll find you. His fingers brushed carefully across Xiao Zhan's forehead. You're not getting rid of me. Not now. Not ever. The moment Xiao Zhan wakes. Xiao Zhan stirred, his eyelashes fluttering. He blinked slowly, struggling to adjust his vision. When his eyes finally opened, they met Yibo's. Pain flashed across his face. Not physical pain, emotional pain. The pain of being seen. The pain of being known. You found the letter, Xiao Zhan whispered weakly. Yibo didn't speak. He simply held up the envelope. Xiao Zhan closed his eyes, shame washing over him. Yibo, I told you not to read it. And I told you not to leave me. Yibo replied, voice steady but trembling at the edges. Xiao Zhan tried to sit up, but the strain was obvious. His chest tightened, breath hitching. Yibo immediately supported him, guiding him gently back against the pillows. Don't, Yibo said softly. Don't force yourself. I didn't want you to worry, Xiao Zhan murmured, voice cracking with guilt. And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life wondering why you abandoned me. Yibo shot back gently. Do you see how much this hurts me? Xiao Zhan lowered his gaze, lips trembling. I didn't think I mattered that much to you. Those words shattered Yibo completely. You're everything to me, Yibo whispered fiercely. You're not someone I can lose like luggage at an airport. You're half my world. Xiao Zhan's breath quivered. Tears formed slowly in his eyes. Tears he tried to blink away, but failed. I didn't want to see you cry, he whispered. Yibo's voice softened. But I am crying because I love you. Xiao Zhan froze, breath stopping in his throat. He looked up at Yibo with eyes filled with disbelief, fear, and hope. Yibo, he whispered. Yibo took his hand gently, intertwining their fingers. You don't get to leave me, he said quietly, but with firm conviction. Not in 4 days. Not in 4 months. Not without me standing beside you. If you need treatment overseas, I go with you. If you need to disappear for a while, then we disappear together. Xiao Zhan let out a broken sob, tears spilling freely. I'm scared. I know, Yibo whispered, pulling him into his arms. But you don't get to be scared alone anymore. Xiao Zhan clung to him weakly, resting his head against Yibo's chest. He could hear Yibo's heartbeat, fast, frantic, alive. A heartbeat that was fighting for him. You won't change your mind? Xiao Zhan whispered. Never, Yibo answered. As dawn slowly bled into the sky, soft gold filtering through the curtains, Yibo remained beside him, still holding him, still guarding him, still choosing him. Because the secret was no longer just Xiao Zhan's burden. It was now theirs. Shared, carried together, faced together. And whatever came next, Yibo was ready. He was staying. no matter how dark the road ahead might be. If you enjoyed this emotional continuation and want more episodes of this heartbreaking yet beautiful story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing content.